With several talents requesting their release from WWE, it seems that the company that was once the dream destination for almost every single professional wrestler is no longer the ideal workplace for everyone. Now sure, don't get me wrong, there are still plenty of professionals that would give their right teeth to be a part of World Wrestling Entertainment. But I'm just wondering, what could have possibly dissuaded some talents from wanting to work for Vince McMahon? What is it that employees, and not just professional wrestlers, want from their employers? Well, the studies are in, and the answers may just surprise you. But what shouldn't come as a surprise is that it's going to be the topic of this episode. Because today, Dave knows better working conditions. Alright, this information comes as the result of the series The Way We Work over on the TED YouTube channel. I will leave links in the description and you should definitely watch them afterwards to get an even more in-depth look at the subject. However, for this video, I will be showing how these concepts apply to the wrestling world specifically, and how this may all tie together with those wrestlers who have been unhappy with their position in WWE. Now, the first thing to make clear is that money is not the answer to everything like you may initially think. So as proud of his bank account as Seth Rollins might be, more money doesn't always equal more job satisfaction, at least not for everyone, which definitely comes as a relief for many employers, since it won't cost them an arm and a leg to satisfy their staff. But this does benefit more than just the Vince McMahons of the wrestling world, as smaller promotions don't need to feel like they have to have a Tony Khan level bankroll in order to have a successful business. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that having a roster full of happy wrestlers is going to make your indie fed $1 million, but maybe I am. Because another aspect of employee happiness that companies really need to consider is that having a company full of happy employees makes you money. As explained by equity visionary Michael C. Bush in his TED video, companies with lots of happy employees have much higher revenue growth when compared to unhappy companies, and they even perform much better in the stock market. Okay, so how does a company get happy employees? Well, as previously mentioned, it's not just about the money. Sure, I'm willing to bet that no one working for them actively wants WWE or AEW to pay them less, but cash alone really isn't enough. And it's also not about the perks either. As much as I, among many others, feel that WWE should cover things like travel, lodging, and healthcare, that also isn't gonna do it on its own. But alright, so what's it gonna take then? Well, one of the biggest factors that employees actually want is trust. The example that Michael C. Bush gives, which he makes clear is a real example, is let's say an employee asks for a new laptop. Before he gets it, it has to go through 15 levels of approval first. However, if you add up the cost and the time of getting the approval from all the parties involved with those 15 levels, you'll find that it costs more to get the laptop approved than it costs to just give the employee the laptop to begin with. Not only is this completely nonsensical from a business perspective, but more importantly, it also leaves the employee feeling that they are just not being trusted, with it taking so much scrutiny to verify a simple and downright obvious request. Continuing with this thread, in another video in the series, author Patty McCord talks about how a lot of times when companies apply what they feel are best practices, they're just doing what everybody else is doing without ever checking to see if it actually works. And one of the biggest things that she says employers should be doing is that they should work with the assumption that everyone comes in wanting to do a good job. Now, judging from all this information, it's fair to ask, do companies think that an employee is trying to pull a fast one by asking for a work laptop? Or is it just safe to figure that a laptop is something that employees are required to do an amazing job? Well, if we just go with the belief that everyone really does go into every opportunity wanting to make the most of it, then we'll find that we're right more often than we might think. On the other hand, if a company does decide to go through an elaborate approval process buried under a mountain of red tape for a decision that should only have taken one person 1 second of common sense, it just shows how little faith that company has in its employees and their desire to perform well, which doesn't make it all that surprising when they don't. Now, as this relates to professional wrestling, how much trust does WWE really have in their employees? Well, when it comes to their wrestlers, there have been plenty of reports of talent pitching ideas and storylines only to get them completely shut down without a second thought. Even in terms of the writing staff, there are also claims that creative have had their plans thrown out at the last minute by Vince McMahon, resulting in some members of the creative team leaving out of frustration. If WWE really did hire creative talents for their creative abilities, then it's probably best to assume that they want to do a good job and that they can be trusted to perform that job well. And if Vince McMahon doesn't feel that way, then perhaps he shouldn't have hired them in the first place. As Patty McCord also said, management is about building great teams and not about controlling people. And judging from the outside, since I don't work for WWE, it sure seems that there is a lot of micromanaging going on, from all the words that WWE personalities are not allowed to say on air to the heavily scripted promos that wrestlers have. Not only does this not make sense from the previously established business research that we've been talking about, but it also doesn't make sense by WWE's own rules, as the company encourages talent to be active on social media, but yet they don't appear to be scripting their tweets or pre-approving their online behavior. So if you trust them using their own words when speaking to the public while representing your brand online, you should probably trust them to talk when they're on camera. And yes, some wrestlers have occasionally said some stupid stuff on social media, but that's really not a problem as a whole. First off, this isn't something that happens to everybody, it just happens to a select few, as common sense prevents most people in today's day and age from saying dumb stuff online, or at least it should. But secondly, even when it does happen, it tends to be that a wrestler speaking as himself offends a regular person on the internet. But on TV, on the other hand, when cutting a promo, they're playing a character and talking to another character in a performance. It's understood that all of this is done in the name of entertainment, so there's a lot less to worry about. Remember, these are full-grown adults who want to do well in WWE. If you give them their freedom, they will want to see themselves do as well as they possibly can. They're not trying to sabotage their own career. Sure, it may still happen, but it's not often enough that it justifies taking away all that trust from all of your talents. Understand that wrestlers want their character to be the best they can be. They want to be over and they want to be used in the best possible way. But another concern with giving talent too much freedom is the fear that everyone will just want to give themselves all of the titles all the time. However, overall, that really doesn't seem to be the case. Sure, there are some greedy people out there, but when you stop to talk to wrestlers in the business, you'll see that many of them understand the roles that need to be occupied in a professional wrestling company and who needs to occupy them and when. If you've ever been part of a group project in school or played informal team sports, you'll find that there's no management structure there, but yet still, things get done. Teams tend to just figure out who needs to play what position. They understand that not everyone can do everything and that the goal of the team is to get the project done or to win the game. And companies really aren't any different from that. Instead, WWE should just be clear with communicating to everyone what they feel excellence is. Management should be living those ideals themselves and then trust that they hired the right people to uphold those values. What does a great match look like? What does a great promo sound like? And what is the best possible way to deliver us and our product to our fans? And along those lines, we need to also remember, as Michael C. Bush went on to say, that people want to be heard. An employee wants to know that their employer considered their ideas when making decisions, because if not, then there's no point to having any conversations. A company shouldn't just set the expectations of quality, they should also remember that it's important to be flexible with their definitions. This is about creating a team, different individuals working together to create the best possible choices to produce the best possible result to the customer. And finally, one major lesson from Patty McCord is that there is no point in keeping someone just for the sake of keeping them. A company should be a great place to be from, and it's okay to let employees move on. With WWE reportedly keeping people on payroll just so they don't become competition, we have something that's really not doing any good for anyone. If someone wants to leave, you should let them. Holding people hostage isn't going to make anyone want to work for you anymore. And long before it ever comes to that, it's okay to let people serve their purpose and then let them go when they're done. That way, when they go to another company and talk about what a wonderful time they had with you, your company becomes a place where other people want to work. But if you prevent them from going where they want to go and you don't even utilize them, just imagine the kind of stories they'll have to tell about your company then. In summation, when it comes to your employees, trust them, respect them, and listen to what they have to say. It makes for better business, it makes for happier employees, and it makes for happier customers. So if you want a company that's a place where people want to work, as ludicrous as it might sound to many CEOs, treating people better is the plan that might actually get you there. But what do you think? What are some other ways that WWE can show trust in their employees and demonstrate that they are willing to listen and improve working conditions for their wrestlers? Let me know down in the comments, and make sure that your notifications are still working so you don't miss out on any of the content right here on Dave Knows Wrestling. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.